This is 5 in 10 from Skywatch TV for Friday, July 21st, 2023. I'm Derek Gilbert. Our Friday 5, the 5 big stories of the week as we head into our weekend. Topic number 5 this week, had not talked about it previously, but should have really. Trump in the dock again. The big question of the 2024 presidential campaign is whether voters will get to decide on the president before juries vote on whether or not Donald Trump is guilty of the things with which he's been charged. The political world waiting for more possible criminal charges against Donald Trump. The special counsel Jack Smith expecting to file some charges against him. He's already been charged in Manhattan in a case triggered by hush money paid to an adult film star, porn star. Separately, he's facing federal charges related to his handling of documents or mishandling, as depending on your point of view, of classified documents in Florida. Trump announced this week that he'd been named as a target of Smith's investigation into efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election and then events leading up to the riot at the Capitol building on January 6th of 2021. Receiving such notification is a procedural step. It is often followed by formal charges. This really, the whole thing is really incredible. It's unprecedented in American history. The case in Manhattan related to the paying of money to Stormy Daniels. The local district attorney has filed federal charges. That's outside of his power, and yet the judge has allowed him to do it. The case in Florida is based on filing criminal charges in what would be a civil case under the law. Again, not within the power of the attorney, the district attorney to do it, and yet that's what's been done. And it has become obvious that this whole thing is a political hit job trying to kneecap the Republican frontrunner leading into the presidential election in 2024. Nothing like this has ever been done in American history. It's the kind of thing we would expect to see from the old Soviet Union or from third world dictatorships. It is really remarkable. The thing we need to remember as Christians, however, is that if it's allowed, then if it's allowed by God, it's because he's got another plan. Remember, he is the one who raises up kings and tears them down again. And our mission as Christians, which is to make disciples of all nations, remains unchanged. It might be more difficult depending on who occupies the White House, but remember, who sits in that office is less important than what's going on inside your own home. Topic number 4, Ukraine. This week, a number of developments in the ongoing proxy war between Russia and the United States, NATO, in Ukraine. President Biden issued an executive order last Friday approving the mobilization of select reserve forces, 3,000 Army reservists being sent to Eastern Europe to bolster NATO's eastern flank against Russia. This is part of Operation Atlantic Resolve. This is being characterized as a contingency operation, but again, it's moving assets into place for a wider conflict, which we pray does not happen. Early Monday, Ukraine bombed the 12-mile-long Kerch Bridge. You see the results of it here. That's the bridge connecting Russia to the Crimean Peninsula. In response, Russia has unleashed a series of missile strikes against cities in the south of Ukraine, Odessa and Mykolaiv in particularly. Russia also withdrew from the grain shipping deal brokered by the United Nations and Turkey, which is important because Ukraine is really the breadbasket of a great many nations, especially in the Middle East and Africa. And without the ability to ship that grain, there are real concerns now as to whether people in places like Lebanon or Kenya will actually eat. The Pentagon also announced Wednesday of this week we're sending another $1.3 billion in financial assistance to Ukraine to buy a host of new military equipment and ammunition. In other words, it's another $1 billion of American taxpayer money being sent to Ukraine that they will turn around and spend to military contractors and defense industries here in the United States. In other words, a wealth transfer from American taxpayers to the military-industrial complex. But the ones really paying the price are the soldiers on the front lines. And sadly, the Ukrainians are paying the majority of that price in blood. The new security support announced Wednesday follows other announcements of humanitarian aid, which made the new U.S. commitment to Ukraine about $2.3 billion committed this week on top of the more than $110 billion already committed by the U.S. to Ukraine. Also this week, following the sort of mutiny by the Wagner Group on June 23rd and 24th, which resulted in founder and CEO Yevgeny Prigozhin being briefly exiled to Belarus. The reports this week are that he's back in Russia and walking around as a free man. The reports that Wagner mercenaries have not only set up shop in neighboring Belarus, a close ally of Russia, they are now training Russian soldiers and special forces. And one of these training sites apparently within 3 miles of the border with Poland. Again, we pray that this does not spread and become a wider, open conflict between Russia and the West. Pray that the two sides sit down and negotiate an end to this now. Topic number 3, Wuhan. This week we learned that the Biden administration has finally suspended U.S. tax money going to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. This was after a months-long review that determined that the Chinese lab is not compliant with federal regulations and not presently responsible. This, according to a memo obtained by Bloomberg from the Department of Health and Human Services. The lab, according to a spokesperson from HHS, has not received any federal funding from the U.S. National Institutes of Health since July 2020, which is interesting because it was about that time that people were getting deplatformed for daring to claim that maybe SARS-CoV-2, the virus behind COVID-19, leaked from that lab in Wuhan. Well, it was dismissed as crazy conspiracy talk and probably racist to boot, although we now know, 3 years later, the corporate media is finally admitting that, yeah, it probably was a lab leak. And oh yes, we also now know from communications that have been released between scientists who were responsible for writing a paper published in the science journal called Nature in February of 2020, insisting that the disease outbreak had been caused by a natural cause, probably the wet market there in Wuhan. The scientists who wrote that paper that became the basis for years of the media claiming that the lab leak theory was a conspiracy theory, they said, and I'm going to quote now, so forgive the language, that was so friggin' likely, end quote, that it had in fact leaked from the lab. But all the while, until for 3 years, since that theory was first proposed, and again got some of us deplatformed, now the corporate media is saying, oh yeah, that probably was the case, but let's move on. Let's not hold a grudge. Topic number 2, invasion. That is what is happening here in the United States. The UK also dealing with its own invasion of small boats crossing the English Channel, bringing migrants from Calais in France to the English shores. Here in the United States, we learned this week that the Department of Homeland Security under Joe Biden has released at least 500,000 migrants into the interior of the United States. That is a foreign population, as we told you, larger than Sacramento, California. Beginning just a few months into his administration in 2021, Biden began implementing a catch and release program, whereas migrants are briefly stopped on the American side of the border and then released with some information. Here's where you check in and promise to come back for your deportation hearing, which of course never happens. It essentially turns the border with Mexico into a European Union style border between nations where, yeah, okay, check your papers. All right, fine, you can go. That's not how our border is supposed to work with Mexico. According to a study published by CBS News, at least 541,000 migrants released into the U.S. interior by President Biden, but it's probably actually more than that. And many of these migrants not coming from Central or South America, they are coming from places like Ukraine and Afghanistan, which begs the question, how, if they are actually fleeing something, are they managing to afford to transport from Afghanistan to somewhere in South America before coming here? Anyway, coming up, giving new meaning to the term hold my beer. I'll explain next on the Friday Five.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we want to make sure you know how you can get your copy of this incredible new book in the John Clash special offer. When you order the John Clash special offer, you'll receive his brand new book, The Law of Attraction, a gateway drug to spiritual heroin. This phenomenal new work challenges the very validity of the dangerous Luciferian, heavily popularized ideology that false teachers and gurus describe as the law of attraction. In this book, John also uses a solid biblical framework to debunk the so-called scientific selling points that the law of attraction is predicated on. But that's not all. You'll also receive the amazing DVD Beyond Supernatural that features off-the-record interviews with popular former New Age author and speaker Stephen Bancars, where he details his long history and involvement with the New Age and shares his personal testimony of deliverance through Jesus Christ. And as a bonus, this DVD also includes the entire original Skywatch TV 5-part series on the second coming of the New Age. Also included in this must-have special offer, the 2-part DVD, Occultianity, how the End Times Church is forming now in preparation of Antichrist, where Donna Howell and Allie Anderson walk you step by step through how a silent, complacent church is inadvertently laying the foundation for the bloodiest cult that the world has ever seen. All of these items hold a retail value of $75, yours now for your donation of only $35 plus shipping and handling, so don't delay. You can scan the QR code on your screen using the camera app on your phone for instant access to this special offer. You can also visit us at skywatchtvstore.com or call 1-844-750-4985 and ask for the John Clash special offer right now.
Item number 1 today, when you hear this phrase, this is not what you think of, hold my beer. Actually, 2 robbers at a convenience store in the UK, wielding machetes, had terrified a cashier into opening the till, and another accomplice not identified by police, scooping cartons of cigarettes into a sack, while a customer inside the convenience store picked up a case of beer and said, "You blokes leave or I'm going to start throwing things." One of the young men holding machete approached the customer, who followed through on his promise, hit the young man with a case of beer, picked up another, and chased them out of the store. Again, not what you think of when you hear the phrase, hold my beer, but the beer-wielding customer saved the day. No one injured. The 2 young men arrested and have since tried, convicted, and arrested to 7 and 9 years in prison in the UK. You don't always need a weapon in order to do the right thing. Sometimes it just takes, courage and the willingness to say something. Say, no, not on my watch. Well, Skywatch TV depends on your support to do what we do. And again, our primary mission here, besides sharing the hope that we have in Jesus Christ, is to finance the work at Whispering Ponies Ranch, where we work with broken children in foster care, teens at risk through partner ministries like Royal Family Kids and Teen Reach. And your support makes it possible that they don't need to pay a dime for the use of the facilities at Whispering Ponies Ranch and access to the therapy animals there, the miniature horses. During the month of July, for your support of any amount, your gift of any size, if you're in the U.S. or Canada, we'll send you as our thanks the wonderful book by Pastor Carl Gallup's Glimpses of Glory. You can find out more about the work at Whispering Ponies Ranch online, whisperingponiesranch.com, and you can donate at the website, skywatchtv.com. Look for the red donate button. Go to skywatchtvstore.com and follow the link there, or call us toll-free during regular business hours, 844-750-4985. And thank you. This week on Skywatch TV, we're talking about the law of attraction. It's a new age concept, the idea that you can make your reality, shape your reality, change your reality just by focusing your thoughts and energies on it. This is a dangerous doctrine that has worked its way into some Christian churches. John Clash has written a book about this that we highly recommend. The Law of Attraction, a gateway drug to spiritual heroin, he calls it. He joins Joe Horn and the Skywatch investigative team again this week. You can see the broadcast at our website, skywatchtv.com. You can catch it on our broadcast partners, our broadcast schedule, posted skywatchtv.com/channels. It's on Roku and Apple TV right now. If you've got the Skywatch TV app for your set-top box, you can catch it there. You can also check it out at our new YouTube or Rumble channels. But maybe the best thing to do is download our free app. That brings the video content right to your smartphone or tablet and bypasses the gatekeepers of big tech. We will not be canceled from our own app. And it works for iOS, Android, and Amazon Kindle Fire phones and tablets. We have links to their app stores at our website, skywatchtv.com. Look for the link in the top menu bar. Next week, program note. Next week, we've got a very busy schedule on tap, including an appearance on the Jim Baker Show. We'll be out for a day and a half for that. We will also be traveling to speak at a conference and definitely, most importantly, working on a forthcoming documentary for Skywatch Films. So because of our schedule next week, we are taking a break from 5 and 10. There will be no new 5 and 10 next week on Skywatch TV, although if a major story breaks, we will bring you an update. But barring that, we will be back a week from Monday. And in the meanwhile, have a blessed weekend, and thank you for watching as we keep watch. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is 5 in 10 from Skywatch TV.